Oh, how's it going out there today, YouTube? I finally managed to drag myself from the depths of my own depression and a few other things. I'm going to need an orgy bucket, but regardless, I have actually managed to finish this video, and for those of you that were unaware or out of the loop, this has gone through many revisions and many redoings. Long story short, because new information came out about these stories. Some stories got pushed to the wayside because they were too old. And new stories came about. So essentially this was supposed to be done last weekend. And instead it's getting done, well, whenever this happens to come out. It's currently Sunday, so yeah, probably like Wednesday or Thursday. But anyway, here we are, a little late. Okay, a lot late. But here we are regardless. I've had some trouble putting this one together, as I've mentioned before. Needless to say, this particular video has been revised quite a few times. And that almost completely accounts for my tardiness. But other life-related issues came up as well. But alas, let us continue on to the video. The first topic on the chopping block and paradigm of my own existence is the recent occurrence of protesters outside of Tucker Carlson's.
We know where you sleep at night.
Mailbox.
We know where you sleep at night.
Tucker Carlson.
So to restate,
House. Now, this wouldn't be such a topic if it wasn't for the increasing turbulence amongst the political sides in the U.S. I mean, you have far left calling anybody that disagrees with them Nazis, and you have the far right calling anybody that disagrees with them a Jew-loving, white-hating race traitor, if you happen to be white. But perpetually fueled on by both sides of the political spectrum, talking about mainstream media and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Albeit more so by the left. The right isn't devoid of sin, as I mentioned before, but I still find things like this to be funny in its own pure irony. Is it irony? Pretty sure that's irony. It's telling me that someone is promoting hate while, promoting hate and being a general douche fuck is a bit humorous to me. Look, you can disagree with a guy until you're red in the face or blue in the face. Quite frankly, I really don't care. However, one thing you shouldn't do is gather outside of his house and state, in no colorful terms, I might add, that, quote, we will fight, we know where you sleep at night, end quote. This, of course, brings up questions of anonymity, but that is a topic for another time, and it should be given that Tucker Carlson is in no way hiding his identity. He's on a very widely watched news channel, and he doesn't hide his face, so it shouldn't have been too difficult to find out where he lives. But I'm sure he also probably thought that his ideas weren't that crazy and people wouldn't be going nuts, so that's kind of on him, but I think he got the job before all this shit show happened to come up. And to be fair, it was also a lot quieter before the 2016 elections. But I digress. The fact that a group of people are willing to threaten a person for simply disagreeing with them speaks volumes to the individuals involved. You see, when it comes to political discourse as a whole, if you are trying to have a victory over somebody of the opposite political opinion, or any other political opinion that you happen to disagree with, one of the things that's not going to help your side is acting like a bunch of crazed animals and going to that person's house and threatening them and their family, and in no lesser terms making it out like you will do anything to make sure that their opinions are not heard, because you don't want their opinions to be heard, and that basically means that you are not willing or have the faculty to challenge them outright, and instead would just rather stifle them and not hear it. Basically, speak no and hear no evil kind of thing going on, which actually doesn't diffuse the situation. Instead, it allows people to have those particular points of views, and you can apply this to any political opinion, all right included. If you just allow them to fester, you give the faculty and value to what they're saying based solely upon the fact that you don't want it to be heard. But I digress on off a little bit of a tangent there. I suppose this was inevitable, as the mainstream painted anyone who even remotely disagreed with the left as inhuman piles of garbage, i.e. racist, sexist, misogynist, so on and so forth, etc. Once again, you could pick one at this point, and it's guaranteed that that has been applied to anybody that is not far left enough. And the Overton window keeps moving further and further left, while the other side happens to be moving their Overton window further and further to the right. And those of us that are in the middle are just stuck here like Australia and the rest of the world. Like, what the fuck? But anyway, I digress. I went off on a little bit of a tangent again. Anyway, this pushed the concept of social discourse being civil to the back burner of the social norm, and as a rather hilarious result has made people who would normally stay toward the center push them to the outskirts of either political spectrum. But enough babbling. These cunts aren't even self-aware enough to see the irony in their statements and their actions. On a second thought, they're poster children for birth control and abortion. Or oral. Or anal. But anyway, I'm getting off point. Moving on to a much more morbid topic. Second Amendment defense incoming. So the question I have before we delve into the meat and potatoes of this topic, so to speak, how do these people come to terms with the fact that they're standing on the graves of recently deceased to push a political agenda? Of course, I can't stand when people use tragedy for political gain, whether or not they be left-wing or right-wing, but that's just me. It seems a little distasteful coming from my perspective. I mean, you might disagree with me on that, but I'm just saying. But anyway, let's continue. On November 7th? I believe it was the 7th. Yes, it was the 7th. November 7th, a mass shooting took place in Thousand Oaks, California. Killing 12, the perpetrator, Ian Long, posted to Instagram before he did it, proclaiming, quote, "Life is boring, why not," end quote, and, quote, "I hope people call me insane," would just be a big ball of irony. Yeah, I'm insane, but the only thing you people do after these shootings is hopes and prayers, or keep you in my thoughts. I mean, obviously, this guy was a few monks short of a choir, a few crayons short of a full set, a few watts dull of a light bulb. But he isn't the crux of this section. No. I just figured I'd include those as a little bit of a prequel. The main event is, of course, the aftermath. What did people do after the event? Did you think that they would come together and more or less try to build themselves up as a community? Do they have to say hopes and prayers? No, they really can do whatever the fuck they want for all I care, but that's besides the point. No, what they did, not they and as a general terminology, just those of family members that were left after the fact, did this. Now, this is just one example. I could show many. From those of the likes of Hogg to representatives of our own government. But to address this woman in particular, I'm going to respond with a sarcastic comment. First, Miss Orfanos, or Mrs. Orfanos, however you pronounce your last name. I'm probably butchering it, so I'm sorry about that. I would like $1 million and a yacht. But here we are. The reality of the world is, well, the world doesn't revolve around you. Is it tragic what happened? Yes. Does it suck? Yes. But here's the thing. Your tragedy does not give you agency to take the rights away from other citizens because you deem it your emotional worth. Your emotional value holds no value because those rights are human rights and are not given to humanity by mankind. They're intangible. They're not supposed to be taken away just because you get your fucking fifis hurt. But anyway, moving on. If gun control worked, we'd be seeing a decrease in public shootings when in reality the frequency and fatality rate has been increasing. One would think that this would bear in the minds of those of the Hoggians and the other ones of that mindset that the more that you restrict it, the more common a public occurrence happens. You'd think that the cogs would turn in their brain and they come to the conclusion, maybe all these laws and regulations aren't working. Maybe the people that want to commit random acts of violence are going to do it, and they're going to find a way to do it, whether it be with a rifle or a pressure cooker bomb. No, they just continue down the same path of stupidity and expect a different result. It's a lot like fucking your cousin. I mean, sure, the kid might come out right, but there's a pretty good chance that thing's going to have a club foot and is going to be missing some of its teeth when it gets older. Which is, in retrospect, ever increasingly stringent gun laws. Now, that graph I showed you was from an FBI PDF, the link to which you can find in the description, as well as the link to any and all articles I either show on screen or I use as a source when writing these videos. As those of you that watch me on a regular basis are probably aware, but I'm just letting that out there just in case anybody wants to fact me, so to speak. But anyway, let's move on. Now, to cast an even wider shadow, let's look at gang violence. Gang violence usually includes a handgun, which is usually already illegal, and they usually circumvent the system as it is. Yet gun advocates always go after, quote, assault weapons, end quote, a loosely defined term for any weapon that looks scary, point in case the AR-15, and usually the people advocating for restrictions on AR-15s don't know the first fucking things about firearms in general, let alone an AR-15. And keep in mind, I'm no fan of the AR-15. I've fired one a few times. I'm not a fan of it. Just doesn't tickle my fancy. But do I think people should have the right to own one? Sure. But you guys already knew that answer. So let me propose that those that use emotion to sway politics don't actually understand the premise of the laws they want to enact. They just want to prevent tragedy, which I understand, and I'm not saying it's a bad virtue to follow. However, the world isn't perfect, and these laws largely affect those who are lawful citizens and only wish to be left alone. But before we get involved in the philosophical arguments for the Second Amendment, or against it if you so see fit, and end up a few states away from where we started, let's move on to the next and what will be the final topic. I know I usually try to have more, but it's been a rough week, so bear with me. And this one involves the event that Jim Acosta, I'm probably butchering his last name. But anyway, an event that Jim Acosta went to, and he did, well, you'll see if you're unaware.
Bigger, he's stronger than this young woman. His time was up, yet he's refusing to surrender that microphone. I find the whole thing extraordinarily unprofessional. Situation.
After this happened, there was clamoring from the left and the right. The left saying it's a doctored video, the right saying Acosta assaulted the press secretary. I'm not here to express my opinions about that, though. I'm going to discuss the more recent suing and court ruling regarding Acosta's press pass. Now, given the actions of Acosta, and regardless of whether you thought it was assault or not, or, in preferred words, he was acting like a twat, refusing to give up the microphone. But that notwithstanding, the question of first, and to a much lesser extent, Fifth Amendment rights has been raised here. One could argue that this was hardly a peaceful assembly, seeing his actions, and that he is still capable of expressing his views, even if he didn't have a direct access to dealing with the president in the form of a press pass. And in fact, in light of this, Trump himself said that there were plans in the works for writing up rules and regulations regarding how media can act while in the White House. And as you all know, I'm no fan of frivolous laws and regulations, but I do suppose that this was to be expected. Though keep in mind that the court rulings are not finished and is in fact not a Supreme Court, and the judge that was involved with the ruling stated, quote, I want to emphasize the very limited nature of this ruling, saying that it was not meant to enshrine journalists' right to access. I have not determined that the First Amendment was violated here, end quote. But this also sets another precedent as well, seeing as it's essentially a First Amendment right, using this court ruling as an example. And yes, I am aware it's not the Supreme Court. But using this ruling as an example, pretty much anyone that is part of the media could use this as precedent for getting a press pass. Styx Hexenhammer himself has made this claim, though, as you can see here. Bearing in mind, of course, this is all still relying on the ruling standing as it is for the foreseeable future, which obviously you can't change. Which even the judge who originally made the ruling stated that it is possible that it won't. So, that about does it. I feel like, in regards to Acosta, I'm going to go back to that one for a quick second, go a little bit off the script. I don't think I'd have such a problem with the guy if he didn't act like such an entitled fucking douche nozzle. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest with ourselves. If he was such a fucking prick, it it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But since he's all up on his high horse and acting like he's the man and he deserves this press pass, it just turns a lot of people away from him because it's, dude, you're acting like a fucking cunt. What do you expect people to do? But anyway, that does it for this video. I feel like I've talked your guys' ears off long enough. I hope to have, this one done before the weekend. I'm hoping to actually have it done tonight, but I don't foresee that happening. But I also have another video that I want to get done and out before the end of the week as well, which is going to be not related to politics in a general sense. It's actually going to be video game based, but it's not going to be me playing the game. It's going to be about what some idiots think about the game. So be prepared for that wonderful fucking train wreck down the road. And have yourselves a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, and or night. I'm going to fucking slash my wrists. Good night.